So as you stand at the entrance, you begin to notice that there's this speck at the horizon. I know for me growing up, especially with 4th of July parades as that child, kids, they kind of get the bum end of the deal when it comes to crowds. They can't see over shoulders. And so if you're a good parent, you break through the crowds and let your child be in front. And as they anticipate and wait the arrival of the first float in a 4th of July parade, hoping to grab some hard candy off the street, it begins with a speck and maybe the sound of the float. And so Jesus arrives. That speck of whatever it was in the distance becomes a reality. Your eyes squint in anticipation. Jesus arrives, and the float is really not that impressive. We justified over the years because this donkey is animal royalty, but it's a donkey. We make the prophecy connection of Zechariah 9:9, right? Zechariah 9:9 says, "Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout aloud, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, your king is coming to you. Righteous and salvation is he, humble and mounted on a donkey, on the colt, the foal of a donkey." We have good friends in Stephenville, Texas. They have a sign as you enter into the town, cowboy capital of the world. It's a tongue twister. And our friends of ours, they train horses, and Jordan, especially our daughter, she loves horses, and she loves riding horses, and she is unafraid, and she'll get on a horse, and she'll just run it. And so every time we go, she wants to ride a horse. And they let her. But every time they let her ride only one of their horses. And this horse's name is Gus. And so you ask, why does Jordan ride Gus? Well, Gus is old. He's not very fast. He's trained. And he's calm enough to even be controlled by an 8-year-old girl. Jesus is riding an unbridled, untrained, young donkey. Think about it. Where is the war horse? An army behind him. It seems a little embarrassing, right, for a king to march into enemy territory with a young donkey that's difficult to control. This is the king that's supposed to defeat Rome. This is the king that somehow is going to be able to stand against all outside influences against God, which is a long list. And so maybe at this point, Jesus sees the crowd's eyes. Maybe there's this slight confusion in their eyes. Maybe there's this drop of the palm leaf as Jesus enters. And it's at that moment where Jesus proclaims, "Fear not. Don't be afraid, daughter of Zion. Behold, your king is coming, sitting on a donkey's colt. Be proud that I ride a donkey." What does the daughter of Zion have to fear? What is Jesus saving them from? What injustices will God liberate from them? And so as we enter into Jerusalem this week with Christ, and we honor Palm Sunday, this is the question that I want us to ask this morning. What is Jesus saving us from? What is Jesus saving us from? What is it that we fear? If I'm ambitious, I will admit that I hope Jesus is saving me from everything. And Jake even alludes this in his communion thought. I hope Jesus saves me from my finances. I'm hoping Jesus saves me from hurtful or oppressive institutions like Rome. I'm hoping Jesus saves me from the moral downfall of society. I'm hoping Jesus saves me from my personal health. The list goes on, right? According to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, these are what kind of drives and motivates people, and that is at the very basic level. We're hoping for security, we're hoping for health, we're hoping for resources. So the question is this what Jesus is saving us from? And so this time of the year, what a fantastic opportunity it is for us to be reminded who Jesus is and what Jesus is saving us from. So the reality is that I'm in a crowd of people. And we are together, and it's not just one or two. This is a crowd of people that have welcomed Christ to come at the entrance. And so I had to think this week, okay, what is the one thing that Jesus can save us all on that we can agree on, right? What I mean by that is some of us don't need saving from money. We might think we all do, but some of us really don't. Some of us don't really need to be saved from health. Some of us are pretty young and healthy and doing pretty well. Some of us don't need to be saved from our jobs. Some of us don't need to be saved from our insecurities or from our bodies. Some of us don't need to be saved from this sin or that sin. We're all in some ways individually kind of dealing with some of our own mess in our life. So what is that one thing that Jesus came to save us from? And the answer this week is Jesus came to save us from ourselves. He came to save us from ourselves. Like the donkey Jesus rides on, we are unbridled, immature, untrained. And yet, if we are willing, Jesus can take control of our lives. Like the muddy road that Jesus walks through, we are people filled with mess. And if we are willing, Jesus can rise above the mess and make us pure. Save us, Jesus, save us, is what the crowd chants. But instead of being saved from all these outside influences, how might Jesus save us from ourselves? I mean, what is keeping each of us from following Christ all the way to the cross? The crowd cheering on Jesus, right? That's the same crowd this morning sitting before us. The crowd on Palm Sunday is this crowd, meaning we are not alone. We are a community of witnesses that are watching God, and God continues to walk into our lives. We are confident that Jesus has not abandoned us, that Christ continues to enter. So we look at this crowd on Palm Sunday, and in some way we might think this is us, and in some way we don't want to, right? Because, well, this crowd they're dangerous. They're influenced by their day and age. It's true, okay? It's true that this same crowd is most likely that crowd in a couple days that will chant, "Crucify him." Think about the irony, right? The crowd that saves, Hosanna, is the same crowd that saves, "Crucify him." But again, what's the good news about this, what's the hope of this, is what it's saying is that crowds are more powerful than the individuals. Meaning, a crowd of believers can either become aloof and detached and finicky and fall away from Jesus in such easiest ways, or a crowd of believers can stand with Christ and be united together in identifying how we can be saved from ourselves. Not necessarily from the outside influences, but how we together can be saved from ourselves. And so, what can we be saved from? Have you been feeling anxious lately about your own self-preservation and safety? Have you been angry lately? Have you been envious, prideful? Have you been cynical towards the world or towards our nation or towards our church or towards your family or towards your neighbor? Or maybe you need to be saved from a particular sin that seems to have controlled your life. Maybe you need to be saved from even more simple things. Maybe you're just bored. Maybe you need to be saved from loneliness. Maybe you have disconnected from loved ones like your spouse or your children. Maybe you are a child. Maybe you're in the youth group. Maybe you're going to high school and you need to be saved from all the chaos in this world. Maybe you need to be saved from just the mess that seems to continue to corrupt you and infiltrate your heart and your soul. I mean, what is it that you need saving from? We stand together in identifying how we can be saved from ourselves. Because once we allow Jesus into our lives, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how rebellious we become. We cannot, you have to hear this, We cannot buck Jesus off our backs. It doesn't matter how messy or muddy or sticky or nasty your life is. You need to hear Jesus can walk through it. And I am thankful that Jesus walks through my mess. And I am thankful that Jesus is the center of my life. You see, Palm Sunday, every year, we are witnessing the coming of Jesus Christ. Right? It's through Christ that God literally and deliberately marches into creation and offers victory and hope. And so it's this morning we are experiencing God's radical salvation. And so we cry, Hosanna. Save us, Jesus. Save us. Jesus is willing to save each of us. And maybe most importantly, Jesus is willing to save each of us from ourselves. This morning, during our invitation, and I have Chandra, I believe. Chandra, do you mind? Who's my helpers? All right, come on, stand up. During our invitation, I'm going to have them go ahead and start now. Friends, helpers, NBYG, champions. Thank you. They're going to be handing out palm leaves to each of us. And they're made of paper on, how do you mind modeling one of those or handing me one of those? So on one side is white, and on the other side it's a palm leaf. And what I want us to do during our invitation song is I want us to, on the white side, and we're going to hand pens out too, is I want you to think about this. Write a word or a statement that reflects how Jesus can save you from you. How can Jesus save you from you? It may be a word, it may be a statement, it may be a Bible passage, but reflect and consider and think about, what is it this Easter season, this holiday season, that I truly need Christ in my life to transform me, where I can follow him all the way to the cross. Okay, so after you've written that down, you're going to fold that piece of paper, and so fold it like long ways. It looks cooler that way. And then what I want you to do is, if you're in the middle, you can just hand it off to the side, but I want all the people on the aisles to drop their palm leaves all along the aisles. So we're going to make this place as trashy as possible. And then we're going to have the elders clean it up afterwards. I'm kidding. And this is why I want to do this. Is because in a moment when Glenn Epler, one of our shepherds, does close us, I want us to leave stepping on all over what we just handed over to God. And I want you to think, as you step on each piece of paper, that what you're doing is, what you're saying is, this is no longer mine. Whatever this is, it's no longer mine. Because the King has arrived. And that King can free you from whatever mess is in your life. The crowd comes and sings, Hosanna. Jesus, save us. What can Christ save you from this morning?